FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Today's show is brought to you by U.S. Gold Corp. U.S. Gold Corp is a U.S.-focused gold exploration and development company advancing high-potential projects in Wyoming and Nevada. U.S. Gold Corp has consolidated a district on Nevada's productive Cortex Trend and is advancing the Copper King project towards production in Wyoming, led by a team of prolific company builders and renowned explorers, including Dave Mathewson, who is directly responsible for several major Nevada gold discoveries. U.S. Gold Corp is well-capitalized and has an extremely tight share structure with less than 20 million shares outstanding and trades on the NASDAQ, a major exchange, under the ticker symbol USAU. To learn more, go to usgoldcorp.gold. That's usgoldcorp.gold.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's May Day. This should be, if you're Bernie Sanders or any other number of Democratic candidates, then this is your holiday. It's kind of like Christmas in May to the collectivists. Well, anyways, someone who doesn't think that it is a holiday worth celebrating. Certainly the people in Venezuela aren't celebrating now. I'm talking about D. Carter. Hey, as always, be a part of the discussion, be a part of the debate. Email us, kl@kerrylutz.com. So, D, recent study, many Americans feel that government is the biggest threat to the economy. Who would have thought such a thing?
That's a great question, Kerry. I've been doing a little research on the topic because when I was contacted to see if I wanted to discuss this, I jumped at the opportunity to do it because that research that was done by a group called Bankrate.com, as I'm sure you're aware.
Oh, sure.
They are the ones that kind of take a look at interest rates and what's going on in the country and how the economy is going based on interest rates and what's happening. They are also kind of centrally located. They quoted they call her an economist or someone. She's actually a certified public accountant in Illinois as to what a lot of the source of this material was. And I'm a little bit hesitant to go along with the. I do believe that there's a great angst amongst the American people right now as to what's going on with the economy, and with the economy and in Washington D.C. because Washington D.C. is in a state of gridlock. Nothing's getting done. And I think more people are concerned about the fact that the Democrats are more interested in running after Trump than they are governing. And that is, I think that's your biggest problem. And people are concerned about that. And so they mentioned that as they think the number one economic problem in the world today or in the country today. I'm not sure it is the biggest economic problem. I think the biggest economic problem right now is potential inflation increases, interest rates increases, although the Fed now says they're not going to increase the interest rates between now and the end of the year. The president has asked them to actually reduce the interest rates as of yesterday. So I think probably when you go out and rank and file, if you went to somebody in Texas and said, what is the number one problem in the economic problem facing the United States today, I think the answer would be the influx of all the on our southern borders and what's happening there, more so than gridlock in Washington D.C. I thought it was interesting too, Kerry, that the way they divided this up, they said 40% of millennials cite politics as their chief economic concern. These are people from ages 23 to 38, and people 55 or older. They said 51% of them are concerned about it. These are people that, depending on their economic levels and what they're earning, what their income is, I think they are more concerned about politics from that standpoint, what it's going to do to their paycheck down the road, should it do anything. And, of course, the lady that was checked with, her name is Crystal Cahoon, by the way. I don't mind mentioning her. She's very prominent. She does a great job. She talked to the farmers, and she said they were all complaining. Well, about the fact that the trade thing is cut into their income and that sort of thing down the road. I don't know that that's the case in any place, maybe in a few places in the Midwest It's not that way in the Southwest at all. The tax decreases that we've had, the income tax situation that the president pushed through has helped us down here, helped most people down here. Our farmers, our cotton farmers, are perfectly happy with the trade situation. I guess it's maybe the wheat guys. I'm not sure who's doing it, but I'm not altogether sure that what we're hearing from this rank and file thing is really a nationwide thing. They only used 1,000 people on that research. They called 1,000 people. I didn't get a call. Did you get one?
No.
Most people I don't know whether these calls are made and who they talk to, but if you only use 1,000 people and you say the Americans are concerned about this, I think maybe your polling situation may be just a little bit out of maybe stretched a little bit. Is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, a lot of what we're going through now, debt crisis, it is a crisis, border crisis,
mm-hmm.
all those things, student loans, housing bubble debt still left over from the 08-09 financial collapse. A lot of it can be laid to the politician's doorstep, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. They kicked it around. In fact, it's just like the Social Security can. They've kicked down the road again from 1985 to recently. They've decided they want to raise or at least there's a bill in Congress right now that they're looking at to raise the taxes on the two of us from 6.2 as individuals, taxpayers, to 6.3 and raise it 1/10 of a point for the next several years till they get it up to 7.4, just to increase our taxes. So, yeah, I can lay a lot of the problems at the feet of the Congress because they're not doing their job. And they're not doing the job to help the country. They're really doing their job to try to keep themselves in power. And I think that's the case with the politicians. We can go back as far as you want to go, and that's kind of what they've always done. But I'm looking at the economy as a whole in the Southwest area. The economy here is absolutely booming. Midland, Texas was just voted or just recognized as the fastest growing city in the United States for our size. We've gone from 101,000 to 178,000 in like 8 years in Midland. So the economy out here is great. We're not laying at the feet of blaming the government for that. It's actually they've released some of the opportunities to do business. They've changed some of the rules and made it easier to do business, and I think that's more apropos than blaming the government for not doing their job. Although I would agree, they're not doing what they ought to be doing as far as governing. So, are we in a situation with that? Absolutely, absolutely. Is there a solution to that? I don't know. I really don't know. The only solution to that would be, I guess, down the road, somebody else being elected president, because right now it appears to me that the Congress is more concerned about the president and who is in the office than they are about trying to control the economy and work with the American people to make our lives at least worthwhile. The rents right now are ridiculous. You can't afford to rent any place any longer in most places because the rents have gone sky high. So, yeah, the economy has pushed. Things have gone up because of it. We're going to see some interest rate increases. We're going to see some inflation increase. You know this, Kerry, that inflation at 3% will double what you need every 24 years. Mm. So if you need $100,000 to retire and you think now, 24 years from now, and you're in your 50s and you retire at 70, you're going to need $200,000 to do the same thing you do today at a 3% inflation rate. And we're actually running about a 4 to 4.5% inflation rate today. So people are just not, even though this report came out, people are not changing the way they're thinking about the future. They're still putting the same amount back. They're still doing the same things they were and expecting different results. That's the definition of insanity any way you look at it. Mm-hmm. We're paying attention, but we're not paying attention.
Yeah, and that's the truth. So what do you think the biggest challenge facing the economy is?
Well, if you go back and look at the top 5 economic threats back in 2018, and we kind of have to carry those over. And if you look at it worldwide, the American economy is booming. Stock markets are up. Unemployment numbers are down. Consumer confidence is higher than it's been. And I can remember, and I've been doing the business. I just had my 48th. I know I sound too young for that. I just had my 48th anniversary doing financial services. But when you look at all things, what in the world could go wrong? Well, if you take a look at the highest esteemed economic thinkers who they really took the intelligence squared USA thing a lot, they look at the financial crisis. There's a housing crisis again. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are doing the same thing they were doing in 2008. And I think we could see another housing panic. In fact, Stephen Moore, who's a senior fellow of the Heritage Foundation and a former advisor to the president, has done some great study in that regard. And he says we're in for another housing situation. Well, if that happens, we could see a stock market drop because they're going to look just like they did earlier. And, of course, we have geopolitics, and that's basically what you were talking about and what your questioning is about. And it's a jack in the box every day. I mean, we wake up every day to a different situation of what's going on, and particularly what's going on here in the United States, because basically nothing is going on. They're not doing anything except sitting up there and taking shots at each other. I wish, to crying out loud, that somebody in Washington, D.C. would wake up and realize that the American people are just about getting fed up with this lack of do-nothingness that we're seeing. The third one I see coming, I mentioned earlier, is immigration reform. I don't know that anybody has, if you look at where we were 100 years ago and the way the country did immigration and what we're stood for, that inscription on the Statue of Liberty didn't say, send us your well-to-do people who are already well-educated and nicely run democracies. It didn't say that. We've got to make sure our immigration laws and everything are up. So I think that's number three. Number four would probably be we don't know what's going to happen as far as the price of risk. I mean, it's also one of those very low expectations. I mean, expectations are high, but what could happen could really knock us into a three-cornered hat. And then finally, I think the biggest economic threat we have right now, one of the largest, is what's going to happen over in North Korea and with China. Those things all play a big, big part in where we're going to go in the next year and maybe the next 3 to 5 years, even more so than the Washington situation. That is one of them, but there are 3 or 4 others that have to walk arm in arm with that particular situation in order to keep us from absolutely having another debacle like we did in 2000, 2007, 2008. Although I am one of those people that believe that it's coming. It always does. We're in the 10th year of what we might call a boom. The market has gone up over the last 10 years on a pretty steady basis. People are just now breaking even from 2008, and yet we're looking almost exactly like we did in 2008. Is most of the economic factors show that things are just not doing that well. Profits to earnings ratios have also, they're getting up close to 20 to 1 in the S&P 500 on the average. That's ridiculous. Anytime they get double digit, we're in trouble. And now they're getting close to 20 to 1. The Schiller Index is as high as it was in 1929. So we're critically needing someone to take the lead and avoid this situation that's bound to happen eventually if we don't do something about it.
And it looks like Trump's whole take on this thing is solid economic growth will get us out of all these jams. But it's going to take more than that, isn't it?
I totally agree. It's going to take more than solid economic growth. It's going to take some decisions on these other areas that I mentioned, the immigration situation. We need to talk about that. We need to talk about the housing situation and what's going on there. I had a person to call my home the other night and said, we can sell your house for X amount of dollars. Well, Kerry, the amount they offered to buy that house was more than, it was like 20 times what I paid for it. That's ridiculous.
That's a pretty good return on investment, huh? Imagine if all your clients were doing that well in their market investments. We wouldn't be talking now, right?
That's exactly correct. I am concerned about where we're going. I think it's the president's situation that the economic will take care of everything is not the case. We have to pay attention to what's going on around the edges. The economic thing, yes, we're in the best economic situation we've been in a long time. The interest rates are lower. The employment rates are low. I mean, Midland's the number one place in the United States right now. I think our unemployment rate is like 2%. Wow. But that's not the total answer. The total answer has to be a combination of all of the above and get everybody in Washington, D.C. to get on the same page for just a little while and see if they can at least face these situations and do something about them.
Yeah, it's such a great point, because it's a lot more important, the future of the country, than the politics of the country. Really, everybody needs to put their own interests aside, personal interests and party interests, and really work on behalf of the country. But, we've got this circus taking place in D.C. They're all about deposing Trump. They know they're not going to be able to impeach him now, so rather they want to see to it that he is defeated in 2020. They should be more concerned about the country, the well-being of the country, and putting viable candidates up that are pro-growth, like Trump. I mean, hey, for all of his faults, and there are many, certainly he is in favor of a prosperous and growing country where there's opportunities for all out there. And they really haven't been able to come up with their own message that really is anywhere near as positive as that.
I totally agree, and I think it's interesting. I read an article this morning that said the Clintons have made the statement that the Democrats are shooting themselves in the foot. That came as kind of a shock, but I love the way you opened the program, by the way. May Day, there ought to be about 19 or 20 presidential candidates are out playing a ring around the flagpole or something today because of May Day, because most of them are talking socialistic situations. That's not going to work. Look at Venezuela, what's happening today. My goodness, that's exactly what happens to all socialistic countries. And we should be more concerned, and you put it so well, Gary, more concerned about the country as opposed to our politics or our political standing, what party we're in. We should be more concerned about the United States of America and where we're heading, and protecting our countries, protecting our shores, taking care of our people, and making sure that everyone has an opportunity to earn the living that they need to earn, and be able to live the way they want to live in a comfortable and safe way.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more here. And unfortunately, until our politicians really put the priorities of the country ahead of their own and their parties and their ideology, I think we're just going to get more of the same. So a year from now, we'll be approaching the election. Where are we going to be?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm not a prophet nor the son of a prophet, but I do know this, that if we continue to have the gridlock like we're going, it's just going to get worse. If they don't pay attention to the details, if they don't pay attention to inflation, if they don't pay attention to interest rates, if they don't pay attention to immigration and take care of these things as we go, we're going to be in a pickle. I don't think that the market will stand another year under these stretchers. It's under a tremendous amount of strain right now, and I don't think it can hold up like it has been based on what they're doing if they don't take some steps to solve the problem. I see a year from now, maybe less than that, a market drop and probably, in fact, the article even went on to say that people are not doing what they should be doing. They should be paying attention to these situations and changing the way they save, putting their money in different places in order to avoid the loss in case the market drops. That article was very well written, and I agree with everything they say. But if we don't do something between now and a year from now, we could be seeing ourselves in another 2008.
Yeah, I think it's always a possibility. It's as big a failure of government as anything else. 2008 combined with a cycle, but they were pouring gasoline on the fire for so long that no wonder it happened. It's not a surprise. Well, anyway, Dee, we want to read more about you and check out your work. Where's the best place to go?
You can go to dcarterfinancial.com. That's one place you can look. I do have the book out. If you can go to amazon.com and get a copy of my book, it's Now or Never. It goes into some of these things and perhaps some of the solutions that we're recommending in that book. And I recommend people pick up a copy of that. You can get it at a discount now. It's been out for nearly a year, although it's done very, very well on Amazon and at Barnes & Noble. But that's the best way to get us. Go to dcarterfinancial.com and see if you can pick up on what we're thinking, what we're doing, and how we're going about doing it.
Hey, we appreciate that. And as always, hey, come visit our site, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. You'll see a link there to Dee's site in the show notes. Sign up for our newsletter. And while you're at it, check out Twitter at Kerry Lutz and Facebook Financial Survival Network. If you're, regardless what platform you're listening to this on, podcast or YouTube, please subscribe, like, and share. It really helps us a lot. When you do that, helps get these ideas out, which are so important. and helps aid the dialogue. Really appreciate your coming on, D. Thanks so much.
You bet. Look forward to talking to you again, Kerry. Thank you.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.